All right, good morning. This is Axel Merk, President and Chief Investment Officer of Merk Investments. I'll continue my series of giving some morning updates during these extraordinary times. Last Friday, I gave a non-market update, and one of the things we've been doing is last week we had an online quote-unquote happy hour. Um, so we'll do things of that sort, but for the time being today, let me comment here briefly on the markets. Then I'll give a brief outlook, my thought on the non-farm payroll report later this week, and then I'll make some broader comments on how each one of us can add, I believe, valuable information to the debate and so forth. And so when we had the market rally last week, it was a rally of the folks who had really been losing out, of the laggards in the industry. That is not, in my view, how market bonds are formed. I expressed here that I've been very skeptical. Today, as the markets have opened, say somebody on Bloomberg called it a rally of love. It's more the leaders that are picking up. So that's kind of better. One thing to keep in mind, it is month end, or tomorrow's month end, but there's a lot of rebalancing that is taking place, maybe taking place. And so that will distort things in the medium term. We didn't have that, by the way, that rebalancing as one would expect at the end of February. The money didn't flow back into stocks. Now presumably the money um, is in cash, but and so I continue to be skeptical on that note. One of the analysts I follow, I follow many analysts. Doesn't mean I do what they tell me to do, but I do. The input, by the way, of anybody is not whether they're right or wrong, is whether they can provide food for thought. And so it's in that spirit. I'm not claiming to make any predictions here of what's going to happen. And as I talk about this, by the way, let me briefly show you my disclosure so I get this out of the way. Um, the What he said is that with the initial jobless claims rising by 3.3 million, we are at 9 million plus unemployed now. That he asked whether the worst is behind us, and I didn't quite know how to take that. If you read what he wrote carefully, maybe he meant the rate of change, but clearly we're going to get more unemployed. What I'm mostly concerned about is the fallout effect. When you have a shell shock consumer, is the consumer really, if and when this is over, at the tail end of things, really going to go back in? Historically, when you've had a recession, it's always contained, it's always isolated. Now, clearly, this isn't a crisis that is going to be contained, but still, we're looking at the specific crisis at hand. And by all means, markets are discounting mechanisms. Usually, when things are the worst, we reach the bottom in the market, and who knows, maybe we've been told that the worst, so to speak, in New York is going to be in 2 weeks. Maybe there's the low in the market again. I'm not giving investment advice and so forth, but it certainly won't feel like it. We get optimistic things like these rapid tests. We have way too little information yet of what this life is going to look like once we are allowed to go out of the shelter in place situation. So call me a skeptic, but I am concerned that in a credit-driven society, when we all depend on credit and cash doesn't flow anymore, we have a problem. And no monetary policy, no fiscal policy can sufficiently address that. They can obviously buffer that, but it is something to keep in mind. Now, quick here thought on the non-farm payroll report. Um, if I'm not mistaken, the survey for the non-farm payroll report is always done the previous month, the week that has the 12th of the month. And so let's keep that in mind. We will not see the full brunt of the layoffs and on the this in this month's report. The initial claims are in that sense a much better contemporaneous indicator. The real bad news in the non-farm payroll report, in my view, is almost certainly going to be in a month from now. And so while a lot of people put in a lot of weight into the report released this Friday, I would take that with a grain of salt. So it's just to put that out there. So and then just a brief broader point I'd like to make. I think in order to get through this, we should listen to people from all kinds of walks of life. Neil Ferguson, for example, he is an economic historian, and he can provide incredibly valuable perspective from a broad historic perspective going back hundreds of thousands of years, and how different cultures have, what the economic impact has been, and whatnot. And let me just give you my 2 cents here. I have a master's in computer science. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a medical doctor, but my focus at the time was on artificial intelligence. I later on went on to work on a PhD in operations research. Nowadays, I guess we'd call this data science. And obviously the artificial intelligence of the day was, it wasn't the very early days. This was in the late 80s, early 90s. But it was certainly not as quote unquote advanced as it today. But the one perspective I like to bring here to the table is the focus in my day was a lot on different ways of learning, and obviously with a focus on machine learning. For example, the thesis advisor for my master's thesis got her thesis on a learning in unsupervised environments. Now the idea was, of course, for robots that don't get parental aid, don't get aids of a teacher, how they can learn things. And the reason I mention that is that we live in an environment where we're learning on the fly. We don't have guidance. We don't have any historic precedent on how to do this. There are theories that say that it is possible, and how it is possible to learn about whatever it may be, right? And so we obviously faced with a virus here. We have to learn how to live with that. And so a lot of us are frustrated with whatever our major project is, but our major idea is. But if you think about it, if you don't like the guidance you get out of Washington, well, I have some news for you. This will never be a fully coordinated response, certainly not on the global level. The US is too diverse a country to have a fully coordinated response. We will have a patchwork of responses on the local level, at the family level, on the business level, on the county level, the state, the country level. Some things will be coordinated, some will not. And clearly, the more coordinated, the more helpful it may be. But we will get through this even in this kind of patchwork that, in my view, is almost certainly going to have. And the one thing I've been focused on is, well, how, after the shelter-in-place period, what is going to happen? A lot of politicians are saying, hey, it's premature to talk about it. I couldn't disagree more. Maybe psychologically it is for people that they would just run out and socialize again. But we do need to figure out the best practices and what to do. And my guess is that we will have a patchwork of practices, be that the app approach with the frequent testing, taking the thermometer, wearing masks and whatnot, be it the 5-minute tests that maybe you'll have to take that getting into off building, or whatever it may be. My guess is that there will be private initiatives competing with one another, combined with some government imposed rules. And then in the medium term, some of those best practices will be prevailing, not necessarily the very best one, but maybe the most time-effective one or cost-effective one or whatever it may be. And so over time, we'll figure this out. But it is this somewhat random approach to it that isn't just all bad. There will be some good that will come from it. As mankind will get through this, the question is really one of timing and how much damage is done, both to our mental health, and obviously also to the economy, and then of course the other one is the physical health as well. And so a lot of these efforts right now, we're quote unquote flattening the curve, how we will progressing. And the reason I look up here is not that I don't want to look on the camera, but above my camera I have my Bloomberg screen. I'm trying to see whether there's anything else I want to mention. Many of my followers are interested in the gold market. Spot gold, as I talk, is at 1619, and this futures market is at 1645. As I've mentioned, that disconnect, and it's been reasonably widely reported, is in part due to the COMEX standard that's used in the futures contract. This is April contract, the first notice day. That is the day where the commercials can supply gold, is tomorrow, March 31st. And the challenge is that some logistics channels are broken and the refineries are not operating. So the gold miners are supplying gold to the refineries. Some of them can get it there. I hear that Asian refineries in particular, several of them are open, but the major Swiss refineries are not open. And so there's a bottleneck. And so this is a physical market. in the crude market, we're used to that, where people are talking, oh, we don't know where to stuff all the crude right now. But when you have challenges that we have like we have right now, those sort of markets are also affected. Talking to the major vaults in London, they are operationally the London good delivery market is working. And by the way, the COMEX market, one of the things that's different is the standard for delivery in COMEX are 100-ounce bars. You can also deliver kilo bars, and I hear that there are some standards have just been eased, but but in the rest of the world is really using the London Good Delivery standard, and even that market has some tension, but that's working in my assessment better than many other markets right now. Any case, thanks for listening. Give me feedback as to how you like this format, whether you'd like me to do something different, what to cover. I cannot cover products in these sort of clips, but if you do have any questions specifically for me, feel free to reach out to me, preferably through our website at Merck Investments. And I now didn't have time to look at questions. Last time nobody submitted questions. So if you start submitting questions, that would be great. And I will get back to you if you did submit the question. With that, have a great day, be safe, and look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye-bye.